When people in the Midlands want to talk, they talk to Will Faulkner.
Oh, well, good morning. What a shock yesterday. The news that the Queen of Country Music, one of the nicest people on the planet, Dolly Parton, has passed away. And she had kept her illness very, very quiet. And it's only revealed in the past few hours that it was a cancer diagnosis that she had contended with for recent months. And she said in a recent interview, only about a week or 10 days ago, that she had neglected her health while caring for her husband, who passed away last year. And there is an important moral to that story for anybody who is a carer, that as devoted as you may be, you cannot pour from an empty cup, and you have to mind yourself all the time. So the late Dolly Parton staring out at us from many front pages today. The other big news, of course, CAO offers. So a huge, huge weight for so many households here in the Midlands. And finally, those offers are dripping in today. And for many, it'll be good news. And for others, well, it's simply a chance to take stock and to see, did you set off in the right direction to begin with? Because there is seldom only one way to your destination, and very often post-leaving cert courses or apprenticeships or some other avenue can be just as enjoyable, maybe even more fortuitous. For instance, many businesses have been started because somebody didn't get the job offer that they were looking for, and in the end, they are very thankful for what seemed like a setback at the time. Anyway, let's take a look at the front pages this morning. Dolly Parton's obituary is highlighted in the Irish Independent. She was 80 years of age and grew up in absolute poverty in Tennessee. And she was, at the age of 12, very much aware that as a woman she was going to get a lot of attention. She once told a story about when she was immersed in a river for her baptism and her white cotton dress became somewhat transparent in the rushing water, and the boys on the bank moved on to shout hallelujah. And then, of course, she brought in the blonde wig, and she was very much about, if you're a star, you owe it to your fans to look like one. And this is apparently a true story, not an urban legend, that once she refused to leave her house without makeup even during an earthquake. And she said, if the house is coming down, it'll just have to fall on my ass because I'm not going outside looking like this. I think that sums up Dolly Parton. Other stories then, let's move to the rest of the front pages. So, the Leaving Cert, despite an increase in grades as a result of the COVID pandemic and steps since then to manage what they call grade inflation, it looks like there will be no reduction in the CAO points requirement for all of the major in-demand courses. So the offers will be issued at 2 o'clock today. And if you're thinking, oh, maybe medicine is going to come down or veterinary science is coming down, not really. The initial findings are engineering and architecture are going up. Application numbers increased by 15% in the last year. There has been, however, a decrease in interest in information and communications technology. Some of those courses may be a bit easier to get into. Medicine, unfortunately, first preference applications are up 82%. Physiotherapy up 27%. Veterinary medicine up 22%. So, mixed picture on the Irish Times regarding the Leaving Cert. Good news, though, on the Irish Examiner for anybody who has that rare genetic condition, Friedreich's ataxia, because yesterday the HSE decided, after months of uncertainty, about reimbursing the drug Skyclarys, which in a best-case scenario could increase somebody's lifespan by 50%. And one brilliant article in the Irish Examiner looks at a person who has FA. It's their 30th birthday, And oddly enough, they got the good news from the HSE on their birthday that the medicine will be funded for them. And it seems there was a last-minute change of heart by Biogen, the manufacturer, and they have reduced their price, and the HSE has been able to meet them in the middle, it would seem. So Irish Examiner leading with that. Let's go back to that terrible tragedy on the M9, and the debate continues as to how to punish, if they do it, anybody who drives on the motorway in the wrong direction, but also how to prevent those sort of motorway entries in the first place, because they are becoming more common. The Irish Times has been crunching the numbers, and it seems the M50 motorway and the M7 are where most of these incidents are taking place. And I think that maybe stands to reason. The M50 is the busiest motorway in the country, after all, followed by the M7. And the unfortunate trend is that it is becoming more common. And this particularly took an upsurge in 2023, according to the Irish Times. And, of course, the speculation would be that maybe what's on social media, the videos of teenagers competing with each other for likes and comments and engagement, that is amplifying the need, as they feel it, to go out and behave that way. But a very poignant funeral service was held yesterday for yet another of the people who died in the crash, Jack Kennedy, 17 years of age, and this took place in the Church of St. Michael the Archangel in Athy. And the canon, Father Frank McAvoy, said young people continuing in criminal activity should please stop. And he gestured to the family before him and he said, "This is a family broken. There are consequences to your actions, not just to yourself, but to your family, the communities in which you live, and then you have the innocent victims." And the mother of Jack Kennedy spoke in her eulogy and said the family would like to send their heartfelt apologies to the injured, and said, "You are all in our thoughts and our prayers, and we pray to God you all make a full recovery." But she hit back at some of the negative commentary online directed at her family and the 4 others who are bereaved. And she said, "I do not understand why people can say such unkind things, knowing 5 families are suffering. The pain we are all feeling right now, and the pain that we will feel forever. None of you wants to walk in our shoes, and I pray to God that none of you will." Meanwhile, the family who unfortunately are suffering life-changing injuries as a result of that crash, the sisters have issued through their family a statement thanking the public for the enormous generosity that has been shown since a GoFundMe page was set up following the crash, and the total raised is now €800,000. And so they've said, from everybody who has donated, shared the fundraiser, sent messages, kept us in their thoughts or supported us in any way, please know how much it means to all of us. And sisters Alma and Niamh Kinsella, who are in their 30s, and their younger sister, Ella Hendricken, who's in her 20s, along with their 7-year-old nephew, continue to be treated in hospital following that crash on the M9, now nearly 10 days ago. In the Irish Independent, the energy companies who've been overcharging you, and a new audit has shown nearly 95,000 households were issued with incorrect estimated bills, and one household had been charged €3,700 for 1 day of electricity. How that was possible, who knows, but the Commission for the Regulation of Utilities is the watchdog, and according to Charlie Weston's article, they are probing just how such large errors were able to take place. More local news. A man in his 60s has been arrested after a crash in Athlone on Monday evening, and there was quite a long tailback. I was actually caught up in this myself, and you could see the flashing blue lights in the distance, the ambulance and the Garda, and it turns out that a motorist was arrested at the scene after a man in his 20s had to be taken to hospital with serious injuries. And again, unfortunately, we don't know that man's condition other than he remains in hospital. And obviously our prayers are that he survives and that he makes as full a recovery as possible. But it happened at around 5 o'clock on the evening of last Monday at Garda on the outskirts of Athlone, and if anybody has dashcam footage or was a witness to the event, you are asked to contact the Garda in Athlone, and you can do so confidentially. If you're keeping an eye on fuel prices, there should be a little bit of relief in the coming weeks because oil is falling and has done so for several days now, falling in price to $86 a barrel for Brent crude, and West Texas Intermediate is at about $80 a barrel. And this is on the hope after Iran and Oman both discussed interim talks to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Of course, it will rely on agreement by the United States as well, so a lot of ground still to be covered, but hopefully that translates into some lower fuel prices as winter approaches, and particularly as we start to order the home heating oil. And one sign that summer is over, electric picnic is almost upon us, and so the lineup has been fully revealed with CMAT coming in for the 21st birthday. They will also have a barefoot garden, and they've really expanded the comedy lineup for this year. But in the Irish Independent today, the promoter Melvin Benn is warning absolutely no illegal drugs at the event. And he talked in particular about ketamine. Do not take it. It's made for horses, for heaven's sake. It's the most nonsense thing in the world to take. And illegal drugs are illegal for a specific purpose, and that's because they are potentially dangerous. So my message is not to take the drugs and to take a good pint of Guinness instead. So, this programme on Friday morning, coming to you from behind the scenes at Electric Picnic to see who we can spot backstage. Will it be Van the Man? Will it be maybe Jerry Fish? Who knows? And indeed many artists that maybe you don't even recognise. That's one of the benefits of EP. I think there are so many, you're bound to find and discover some new future favourite. Weather-wise, decent but mixed. So plenty of dry weather, but we will have rain tomorrow, which could leave the ground in Stradbally rather soft. And as we head into Friday and Saturday, sunny spells, but showers blended in there as well. So the advice from Alan O'Reilly of Carlow Weather is to be sensible with your clothing choice. But he does feel the worst of the showers will have cleared by the time the early arrivals flow in on Friday morning. One more though, if you're not going to EP and you're a bit of a space cadet and you like getting out into the darker parts of the Midlands, well, you are in for a treat. A blood moon will be seen in the sky just before sunrise on Friday. And this will, because of the effect of what's in the atmosphere, turn to a dull red coppery colour, and it will look absolutely huge in the sky. And it'll be dimmer as well because of all of this. So the partial eclipse begins at around 3:30 in the morning on Friday, and it will last until sunrise, which is just after 6 a.m. Now, if I missed any stories, something that we should give a mention to, send me the link on WhatsApp, 083 30 10 103, powered by Lamb Brothers Toyota in Tullamore. And if you are job hunting today, let's see if one of these can be your next big gig. Now, around the Midlands at the moment, temperature is decent enough, 16 degrees Celsius. Still to come today, the passing of Dolly Parton, as many of the Midlands' favourite musicians want to pay their tributes. And if you've any special memories, and I think one of the most viral clips going on social media today is when she was in Ventry in County Kerry. 36 years ago, wandered into the pub of Paddy O'Shea, and she spontaneously broke out In song, it was The Coat of Many Colours, and there was a very proud guitarist just behind her, and it was one of those magic moments that you just couldn't set up. As connected as Paddy O'Shea would have been, and as lucky as he would be through his life, he still, I think, must have been pinching himself after that. So, remembering Dolly Parton next. So today you find us in Cloughan in County Offaly, a very busy crossroads, as you can travel north to south, as many trucks and heavy goods vehicles will, taking the road from Athlone, eventually down to Roscrea and onwards to Limerick. But living here, there is a definite buzz, and it's a village that has grown so much, particularly in the last 5 years. For instance, one of the Midlands' most successful car dealerships happens to be here. And how is all of that achieved when it is relatively remote? Anyway, all of that we shall look at in the next 2.5 hours. When you call 0818 300 103 is my number. You can text or WhatsApp 083 30 10 103, particularly your memories of Dolly Parton, because there are famous singers, and then there are the people who become part of the furniture of your life. And Dolly Parton was certainly one of those, whether it was the hair, the rhinestones, the jokes that just made you smile. And underneath was a formidable songwriter who could put jealousy into Jolene, poverty and childhood pride into A Coat of Many Colours, heartbreak into I Will Always Love You. And she sold more than 100 million records, and crossed from country into pop and even into Hollywood, and built a business empire too, and gave hundreds of millions of books to children through her imagination library. And sadly, Dolly Parton died yesterday in Nashville at the age of 80. But for Cleona Hagan, this is considerably more personal, because Cleona grew up listening to Dolly, because her mum was a fan. And she has seen her live. She has described her as an idol. And, well, let's have Cleona tell that story. Cleona, good morning.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I imagine yesterday must have felt a little like losing somebody you'd known all of your life.
Yeah, it was such a weird emotions, because unfortunately I never actually got to meet Dolly, but just like millions, billions all over the world, we're all grieving the loss of this iconic superstar that was Dolly Parton. As you said so beautifully, that she wasn't just a famous singer. She was part of she was part of the furniture. She was part of just part of that homegrown feeling. And, you know, from a very young age, as you said, I was listening to Dolly Parton. My mum was a super fan, and she's just always been part of our household. You know, her music, whether it's been music always on, or, you know, we might have seen her in movies or doing interviews. Dolly Parton was always such a huge influential figure in our family's lives, for sure. So it's just devastating.
Well, you have the audio and you can hear and admire all of the artistry that goes into the music, but then you have the look. As a girl, what did you make of Dolly Parton's appearance?
I remember as a child, the very first time I saw Dolly Parton, she was doing a cameo on a film called The Beverly Hillbillies, and she came out, this beautiful woman with big, big hair, curly hair, and this gorgeous rhinestone dress. And even as a child, I remember thinking, wow, she is just so beautiful. I want to look like her. And I remember hearing numerous interviews that Dolly Parton did throughout her years, and she was saying how she modelled her look of a lady who was, I suppose, considered probably not the most, not a person that you probably would have wanted to hang out with, to politely put it. But you know, she just...
I remember she was on Ellen DeGeneres actually telling the story of how she was inspired by that particular look. And, of course, we have to remember the poverty in which she was raised. And you've picked Coat of Many Colours as one of your favourite Dolly songs. And it's really a story about a mother making a coat from scraps and a child being mocked because she's poor, but then discovering that money and worth are not the same thing.
what a songwriter Dolly Parton was, and that is my favourite Dolly Parton song. As you said, money does not equate what someone's worth is. It does not bring someone happiness. If you've got all the money and all the finest jewellery, etc. in the world, happiness comes from the most simplistic things. Happiness comes from family, friends, and etc. And Dolly Parton was able to create what I would call a masterpiece with A Coat of Many Colours. She made it sound so simplistic, the way that she sang it, but the way that song is written, the way that song is arranged musically is not simplistic. It is very, very complex, and it just shows she had a God-given gift, not only with her fabulous voice, but also with her writing skills, which she always would have put at the forefront of her music. She always said, I'm a singer-songwriter, and so she would put a songwriter first before singer, which I always thought very interesting. But the lady, she had over 3,000 songs that she had written throughout her lifetime, and
wow.
Imagine writing.
I never realised it was that many.
Yeah, over 3,000. It's mental. It's crazy when you think about it. As a child, she would have been writing songs, but of course she started writing poems first, and these developed, and she really honed in her craft. She worked hard at it, and that really translated when she was able to write two of the biggest songs in the world within 24 hours of each other. That was Jolene and I Will Always Love You. It's what more can you say about her songwriting skills? She was a legend. She paved the way for so many and showed everyone all over the world this is how you write songs.
Yeah. And unfortunately, some of those lessons have been forgotten because she never overproduced anything, and these days so many songs are completely overproduced. You managed to see her live in Belfast. Yeah. Tell me what that was like to be actually in the room.
Well, it just brought me back to being a child all over again. I was literally jumping out of my skin. I could not believe that I was seeing Dolly Parton live for the first time ever, and to see her up on that stage and just being so tiny, but this big, huge voice coming out of her was just really astonishing. And she sang a song, it was a bluegrass song, Bluebird. She sang it a cappella, and it was the most incredible sound and song that I ever heard before in my life, and I doubt I'll ever hear someone sing to that capacity ever again in my life. She was just something else, and I'm so glad I got to see her live before, and I'm actually so happy as well. I'm sure you know Margot O'Donnell was a really, really good friend of Dolly Parton, and she recorded an album with Dolly, I think it was back in the 70s or 80s, I'm not sure which, a while back anyway. And when I first started my Dolly Songbook concert tour 5 years ago, I also recorded an album, the Dolly Songbook album, and I thought, you know what, I'm actually going to send an album to Margot, because obviously I knew the relationship she had with Dolly and she was really good friends and whatnot, but I knew she would appreciate the Dolly songs, and hoping that she would like the covers that I did. But Margot rang me the following week and she said, Cleona, she really loved your album. And I said, sorry, Margot, who do you mean? She said, Dolly. Dolly loved your album.
That's a pinch me moment.
I was like, sorry, what? Dolly? Which Dolly? Trying to think, do I know any other Dollys in the world? And she said, Dolly Parton. And I goes, oh my God, what? And she said, yeah, I sent over one of the albums you sent me, Cleona, and well, her assistant got it, and she gave it to Dolly one morning in her office, and Dolly looked at it and she said, who's this little girl singing my songs? And she listened to the album, and she said it was great. And I literally, when Margot said those words, I think I think I went silent on the phone for at least 10 seconds. I was just flabbergasted.
Yeah, it's one of those moments. How do you pick yourself up off the floor and continue?
For sure. I was just over the moon, and I'm so thankful, of course, to Margot for even doing that. And it was not even, didn't even cross my mind that could ever be done. But I'm just so glad that she got to.
Will it feel different, Cleona, the next time you walk on stage and sing those songs?
Hugely. The next time that I'm doing my Dolly Songbook concert is actually March the 7th in Gleneagle in Killarney, and I don't know how I'm going to feel singing all of these iconic songs. You know, I Will Always Love You. If I had to sing that today, I think I would just tear up and cry. It's going to be. It's just difficult. Of course, as I said, I didn't unfortunately get to meet her, but that doesn't mean that she didn't make an everlasting impression on my life, and I know so many other people's lives throughout the world. And only for Dolly Parton, there's no way I ever would have ever sang. As a child, I was very, very shy, nearly to the point that I didn't even want to go to school. But with Dolly Parton, as you know, being a huge influence in our family's lives, and just to see her get up on stage, she really gave me that courage to get up there and to pursue music and to do what I love. So I'll always love Dolly Parton.
Yeah,
for
she
sure.
was formidable in so many ways. We didn't even really touch on the business side of her career and her business interests outside of music, and we could be here all morning. But she said that ultimately the songs will be her legacy. So let's say it's 100 years' time, you're still here, and somebody discovers Dolly Parton for the first time. What one song would you play for them and say, listen to this is why Dolly mattered?
Oh, it'd have to be Coat of Many Colours every time. That's why she mattered. That is why she mattered. It brings it back to, the more simplistic times and simpler times. And of course, Dolly Parton really grew up with absolutely nothing, no running water. So she knew what real hardship looked like, but she still picked herself up. She still was happy. She still didn't let that deter her and look what she became. And if somebody for the first time gets to hear Coat of Many Colours in 100 years' time, my goodness, I know one thing, they'll just get goosebumps all over their body thinking, wow, this is real music. This is
and
real.
And the moral
true
of the story will
music.
still be true.
Oh, forever and forever. It will always be true. In a million years' time, Dolly Parton, I don't think will ever be erased from anyone's, it will ever be erased. Her music, her kindness, her giving, her back to trillions of kids all over the world and charities, and she showed everyone this is how you live as a human being, as a person, as a musician, and she will be severely missed for lifetimes, 100%.
Cleona, thank you so much for the call and for sharing those lovely memories, and we will talk again soon. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cleona Hagan. It's just after 9:45 as Midlands 103 comes live from Cloughan in County Offaly today, funded by the News Reporting Scheme, which allows us to get out into the smaller communities around the Midlands, where there are still some fantastic initiatives and some challenges too, and we want to hear from you if you think your area is somewhere that we should visit on the next step of our tour. studio@midlands103.com. But let's give you a full introduction to Cloughan after these. A playground proved what could be done, and now Cloughan is thinking considerably bigger. Plans are taking shape for a new community hub in the village, and the idea is to create a permanent home for community activity. And there's already some history here. The GAA previously provided the land, which helped the community deliver its playground, and now another piece of ground could become the foundation for the next project. And Anne Murray is here from the Cloughan Community Development Association. And first of all, good morning.
Good morning.
What is a community hub? What is the vision?
The vision is that we would have a purpose-built, modern facility for Cloughan, for everyone from toddlers to literally the end of life. We would see our hub as somewhere where we could possibly have a wake or a funeral, birthday parties, meetings, bocce, yoga, Pilates, all the things we do at the moment in Cloughan in very cramped conditions. So, with no parking.
To paint a picture for people who may never have been to Cloughan, busy crossroads and main road through it, and a ribbon of development, I suppose, stretching out from those various roads. So at the moment, where would you go for a community meeting or even a wake or whatever the occasion might be?
A community meeting might happen in the old Cloughan Hall, which is huge and has served Cloughan very, very well for many, many years. It is too big for a lot of the things that I'm personally involved in the village. We currently rent a small premises in the centre of the village behind Cabana, the takeaway in Cloughan. We use it for things like craft groups. We have weekly craft group for women, which is my big thing. We have yoga, we have Pilates, we have music lessons, art lessons for children, mother and toddler group. Various groups use us for meetings. It's a fabulous little building, but very small. We would like a purpose-built, probably one-storey building. We're still looking at design. With toilets, everything on one level, where we could have anything from a game of bocce to a child's birthday party.
So you've proven there's demand. Clearly.
There is definitely demand.
The hall is too big for that purpose and the existing room is too small. So how do you find the resource to create this vision and bring it to fruition?
We have... I suppose Cloughan Development and the GAA have come together to try to do this. We have been very generously supported to date by Statkraft, one of the windmill companies in Cloughan, to a smaller extent by other organisations. But the hub, as we have called the collaboration of Cloughan Development and the GAA, is working on a kind of overall plan for the area down at the St. Rhinus pitch and clubhouse. The first phase was to drain and make a field playable that the GAA had bought in recent times, and to extend the walking track, to improve the lighting, to improve the cameras on that track, to make it a very safe place for people. The next phase then is to work on the building, and that we're trying to iron out the kinks in design at the moment and establish exactly what we need.
And when you say we, how many people are involved in the association?
Well, the GAA is enormous. Cloughan Development is smaller, but like all things, there is a small committee that's driving this.
And then to weave out those kinks, all of these processes have to be democratic, I suppose. Is there a bit of arm wrestling across the table?
Cloughan Development and the GAA both want the same things for Cloughan. I am a blow-in to Cloughan. I came here in 2000 and discovered...
Does that still qualify as a blow-in, 26 years?
I think so. But when I came, one of the things I did initially was to start a fundraising campaign for something that I do personally, and needed a venue for that, approached the GAA and was astounded at the amount of help and cooperation I got from the club and various people involved in it. So no arm wrestling. We're all on the same page. You know, we really do want this purpose-built building for Cloughan.
And you have to think as well, past even getting the money to develop it, it then has to sustain itself.
It does.
The heating bills and the electricity bills and so on. Have you thought about that piece?
Yes, long and hard. Yeah. We would hope when the building is up that it will be very, very cheap to run in terms of heating and electricity because of modern building techniques and solar panels, whatever kind of modern innovations there are. But it will be well used. We have shown over the years that there is a definite demand for this kind of building.
So if this was in a larger town, you'd have a huge business cluster to draw from and try and get sponsorship out of, and the sheer size of the population would help too in donations. But when you are relatively remote, where does the money come from?
Some of the money will come from the two windmill companies that surround Cloughan. Statkraft have been incredibly generous so far. Bordnamona has just come online. We're applying to them. Offaly County Council and John Lahey have been extremely helpful with any initiative in Cloughan over the years. Fundraising has to be done. The GAA are planning one for early next year where they will cycle from Croke Park back to Cloughan. Their fundraisers
that has a certain ring to it, doesn't it? Croke Park to Cloughan.
As opposed to the other way around. They are generally very, very successful in bringing big amounts of money. And then as people see our plan coming together, fundraising will become easier. You know, people will be able to stand and look at where we are so far and think, yes, we can help with this. It's like when we built the playground, just on a much, much bigger scale.
All going to plan. When might it actually materialise?
Oh, we had a lovely fantasy of 2030. I don't know how possible that is. Planning permissions take time. There's no other way to put it. We can't predict. But 2030 was our original end of phase, end of the last phase.
Well, fingers crossed. Because certainly where there is a determination, very often obstacles can be overcome. And I think that's one lesson that we've had on this tour of the Midlands is when there's a good core committee of very committed people and when there's unity, then things are possible. So I look forward to coming back here in 2030.
Well, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. And thank you so much for joining us.
Not at all. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Now, latest news on the way next at 10. Good morning. Still to come today, 80,000 people, some huge names and a few surprises as well. We give you a sneak peek inside Electric Picnic before the gates open. Intimidation, vandalism and claims of open drug dealing. Residents in one Midlands village say they've had enough. So what needs to change? And got one of those jobs around the house that you just keep putting off? Well, Brian Clunan has the answer as Mr. Fix-It is here in 15 minutes. When you call 0818 300 103 is my number. You can text, you can WhatsApp 083 30 10 103, powered by Lamb Brothers Toyota in Tullamore. Now, when somebody as famous as Dolly Parton dies, there are really two stories. Yes, there's always the global superstar and Jolene, 9 to 5, I Will Always Love You, Dollywood, Hollywood, hundreds of millions of records and books. And then there are the personal Dollys. For T.R. Dallas, there's the memory of actually meeting her in Dublin almost half a century ago. And for Robert Mizell, an American who has made Ireland his home, there's the Dolly he grew up with. And incidentally, he might have been to Dollywood once or twice or maybe 17 times. Tom and Robert, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Tom, let's start with that line that will make a lot of Dolly fans jealous. You actually met her, so take us back to Dublin in 1978. How on earth did that happen?
Well, I was after joining the Mainliner show band, and Dolly came to play at the RDS in Dublin, and I got the chance to go to meet her before the show in the afternoon, actually. They were doing rehearsals and stuff. And so she was just one of those people. I was a big fan anyway, and had some of her albums from the early 70s. So, yeah, she sat and chatted for maybe half an hour, and Father Brian Darcy was there as well. So we had a great laugh. She was a very lovely person, very friendly, really down to earth, somebody who, who made it very big and came from a very humble background, So she was just an amazing person. I don't know any other person in show business that had the success that she had, from songwriting to performing to films, and of course sent out something like how many million books to people all over the world. So she was just an amazing person, yeah.
And was it the voice, the look, or was it always the writing?
Well, I think there was different aspects, Will, because definitely she was a very good-looking girl. She also was a fantastic person when it come to writing songs. Like, I mean, to write 1,000 songs and most of them were hits, it's an amazing thing to do. And she could sell the show. She was a great singer, totally different than anybody else. There's other great singers there too, but she was just a bit different, and that's what sold it for me anyway. Like, all round, she just had everything going for her, you know.
Robert, your connection is completely different because you grew up in Louisiana. So how present was Dolly Parton in an American country music household when you were a boy?
Well, look, Dolly Parton, my father was a great character, and he was a very, very jovial, he had a great, funny sense of humor, but, you know, and I know that Dolly has now passed, and look, we can all say that, you know, Dolly's one of those country music artists who, you know, it was always still there, and every now and again you'd see a video, she'd come out and talk about her foundation, her book foundation, or whatever she was doing. But my father had a joke that he told many years ago, and it's tongue-in-cheek, but he used to always say, he says, I love 3 things about Dolly Parton, he says, and one's her voice. And then he'd start laughing, and there's a story that happened many years ago, back in must have been in the middle 80s. My father had a medical procedure, and of course, as you know, medical procedures will change a lot over the years. But he had, I know it's morning radio, but he had hemorrhoid surgery many years ago. And
that can happen.
And he couldn't walk very well, but he worked in a hospital. He was a maintenance director in LSU Medical Center in Shreveport. And we have a state fairgrounds which backs onto where we used to live, and there would have been, you know, 50, 60, 70,000 people that used to come to this fair every year. And my dad wanted to go, and my mother said, "Well, Richard, you can't walk." He says, "Well, I go every year. I got to go." So he got one of his friends to drop down a wheelchair from the hospital, and so he could sit, and we pushed him up the road. It was only about 2 or 3 American blocks up the road into the fairgrounds. And of course, for some reason, back in those days, there was no such thing as Facebook and social media. We didn't realize until we got into the fairgrounds that Dolly Parton was playing in the stadium. And my dad just went crazy. He said, we got to go and get tickets to her. We got to go see her. And so, long story short, anyway, we got the tickets. And as we were heading up to the stadium, back in those days, health and safety wasn't as good as it is today. We got seats up in the nosebleed section, and of course we couldn't get up there because my dad had the wheelchair. But these 2 southern gentlemen seen my mother was having difficulty and asked what was the problem, and we explained my dad couldn't get up, so they lifted my father up and took him up to the top of his seat and got him sitting up, and we had the concert was great. But the funny part about it was that on the way out of the concert that morning or that evening, my dad got fed up waiting, and the line was so long getting down the steps, so he picked up the wheelchair and tucked it under his arm and headed down the stairs. But little did he know that he was going to meet the 2 boys at the end of the steps on the way back down. Yeah. So, but I've been to Dollywood, as I said to your researcher, Sinead, 17 times I've been over.
Yeah, that requires some explanation. What keeps bringing you back?
Well, I run tours over there, and I have been doing for years. I was one of the first people ever to bring a coach tour people out to Nashville. And in that trip, when we go to Nashville, we always go down to Dollywood. We go to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. And,
I should explain for people unfamiliar, it's basically a Dolly Parton theme park, or that may even be underselling it.
Yeah, well, it's like I mentioned the State Fair, and the State Fairgrounds in Louisiana is, you know, it's brash and it's lights and it's rides and food and exhibits, but Dollywood is almost like walking into a country pub with a Ferris wheel in it, if you can imagine that. All of the people who work in the park generally are retired people or people with special needs. She reached out to people with special needs. It was close to her heart. She wanted to give retired people a place that they could come and work in their later years. They all dressed up in the sort of typical, dress of the day. There was bluegrass music in the background, country music. The food was all country orientated. And Dolly Parton, apart from, Dolly Parton had a lot of controversy in her life too. If you remember back to when she released 9 to 5, that was a very raunchy type of film at the time, and she got a lot of bad press for doing it. But now it turned out, as time went on, it turned out to be one of the biggest iconic, cult films of this last number of years. But apart from all of that, Dolly Parton probably had more impact on her community in Tennessee than any other artist ever will. I mean, Garth Brooks has sold millions of albums, and George Strait, and they're all wonderful artists. But Dolly Parton came from a family of 12, and she grew up poor. She knew what being poor was about, and because of that, she poured a lot of her fortune back into her local community.
Yeah,
and I think
she reinvested again and again locally.
Yeah, and I think that just really cements her position. I think it cements her position in humanity as well as everything else that she's done. And then, of course, when you hear like Love is Like a Butterfly, and, we do the Nashville Songbook every year as well. We're actually back on tour later this year with that. And I don't sing any of the Dolly Parton songs. Stacey Breen does that. But when you hear those songs, they're timeless, and they're songs that, our grandchildren and their grandchildren, it's a bit like Elvis. I don't think her music will never die. And for me, this I had this vision of her in my head. The hair was always done perfect. The nails were 3 inches long. The outfits that that she was always on stage. She was always a performer. But more so than that, she was just a damn good person, and I like that about her.
And if I can pick your brain, Tom, about the particular connection that Irish audiences felt with Dolly. She grew up in rural Tennessee. She was singing songs about family, about faith, about hardship, about emigration, about poverty, about heartbreak. Are these all themes we can identify with?
Oh, well, I mean, most of us people living in rural Ireland could go along with a lot of that, She was just an amazing person who never forgot where she came from. She was very successful both in music and in business, and done a lot, as Rob said there, for the ordinary people, and people with special needs and all that. She was an amazing person, and that was very important, and I think that sunk home to everybody, really,
Rob, what's your go-to Dolly song?
Sorry?
Finally, what's your go-to Dolly song?
Well, I recorded a couple of songs, like the last one, To Touch Me, which was in the top 100 in Britain for me back in 1981 or 2, and then Why Can't We is another one I do that gets a lot of airplay. She's like 1,000 songs, so how do you pick one? They were all hits.
Tior, grateful for your time. Thank you.
Thanks a million. God bless. Bye, lads.
And final word to you, Robert, and indeed same question. The one song, if you can only play one song of Dolly Parton's, what is it and why?
Well, I only remember just when we were talking that I recorded 9 to 5 a few years ago on an album that I'd done. But I suppose I Will Always Love You, I think is look, I know it's the most popular one, but because of where it came from and because of how she wrote it, and then Elvis took it over and Whitney Houston recorded it. It was a global hit. And if she had never recorded anything else, she still would have been a global superstar with that song alone, not counting all the other thousands and the people that she's touched and the communities that she's helped. I would say there's a lot of sad people in America right now and around the world who's followed her and loved her, and we just hope that she rests in peace, and we hope that her family can get through this difficult point in their lives.
Indeed. Robert, thank you for those words.
Thank you.
Robert Mizell, who, of course, calls the Midlands home, but grew up in a country music-loving household in Louisiana. And just thinking about that particular song he mentioned, I Will Always Love You, just shows the smarts of Dolly Parton, where Elvis's manager had wanted half the proceeds from that song, and she stood her ground and said no, and huge financial benefit to her for having the spine and the courage to do that. Now, we are live in Cloughan in County Offaly today. with thanks to the news reporting scheme. And we're looking at some of the amazing initiatives. We've heard about this vision for a community hub, which hopefully by 2030 will become a reality. Let's discover more about this area after these. Still to come today, 80,000 people, some huge names and a few surprises. We bring you behind the scenes for a sneak peek of Electric Picnic before the gates open on Friday. But we're in Cloughan in County Offaly today, and you've heard already the vision for a community hub, fingers crossed, by 2030. In the here and now, the local primary school has a number of issues on the list that they would like to deal with, and the principal, Bronwyn Collins, is here along with Assumpta Connolly of the Parents Association. Ladies, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Very basic thing would be somewhere to set down in the morning when kids are being dropped off. Paint a picture for us.
Well, first of all, can I just say thanks a million for having us, and it's an absolute privilege to be here. I'm principal of the school since this time last year, and when I joined the school, I immediately was met by the most wonderful PA who are so proactive. We have meetings regularly, and one of the issues that comes up on a regular basis is the safety of the children in the morning. And I suppose I was delving into how we could look into that, and I looked up the safe routes to school, and obviously the application closing date was April 16th, 2021.
So what does that mean, safe routes to school?
So this is an initiative by the government, and you will have seen around the country there are many schools that have beautiful pencils up outside, and it is clear when you're coming into certain villages that this is a school. Unfortunately, the closing date was missed for that, and I did email a couple of months ago, but I got no leverage back or no communication. So I suppose I would love to know another way as to how to go about putting a set down at our school.
So just so listeners can imagine, and Assumpta, you're originally from Ballinasloe, so describe for us the road that the school is situated on and how busy it would be.
Well, it's quite a busy road. We have a lot of traffic going, as my husband says, Cloughan is, you have to go through Cloughan to get to everywhere. So, like, we have an awful lot of traffic going through in the mornings. Arctic lorries, people driving to work, people commuting. It's just, it's very busy. The parking is an issue. And just the general speed of cars going through the school or going through that road. I don't think people realise that there's a school there at all. And I think like the pencil bollards is just a psychological reminder that that's a school, and you automatically slow down when you see them. We've seen them in other areas, and it's a fantastic reminder to just slow down.
Absolutely.
Hopefully, through the pressure you apply, you'll get a good positive answer on that soon.
Absolutely.
What else is on your list?
The other area that I would like to discuss is the fact that we have an SNA for 3 hours and 12 minutes. As you can imagine.
Sorry, that's very precise.
Very precise.
Extremely.
We start school at 9:20. Our SNA doesn't come in till 10 o'clock. And it doesn't make sense, because obviously we have children who dysregulate throughout the day, and they're basically what you're asking your child is do not dysregulate between the hours of this and this, only dysregulate between the hours of this and this. So I suppose it's another area that I feel like we have 93 pupils. I would think that it would be hugely valuable if we could have an SNA for the whole day.
Well, I know there was a huge fear only a few months ago after they recalculated special needs assistance hours. And did you have any change at that time?
So I suppose that what they're asking for is that a child would fit into specific care needs. And a lot of children do not fit into those care needs. So we're asking that they would broaden the horizons of what children nowadays actually need. It's not just toileting, it's not just, providing medication. It's loads of other movement breaks. Lots of children need to remove themselves just for a few minutes just to re-regulate, and that is what we're asking the government. Can they just widen that for us?
So in practice, once big break is over and that SNA is gone, what happens if a child becomes upset?
My wonderful staff, there are 5 of us, 5 teachers. I'm also a teaching principal, so I teach 4 days a week, as well as run the school to the best of my ability with a wonderful staff. And I suppose we just help each other out as best as we can. But it's not practical, and that's being very honest,
What other matters? So always you've got funding requirements. Capitation grant only covers so much. So there's a table quiz coming up, I believe.
There is, We have a table quiz on the 18th of September in Paddy Flynn's pub. and yeah, we can't wait. It's a great night. It's a lot of fun, and it's a great.
Are blow-ins allowed?
Yes. Anyone's allowed to come. All is welcome. It's a great night for new parents to come along and to just get a table and just while their kids are making friends in school, for new parents to make friends
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say the PA in our school, and I'm emphasising the word "our" here because it's not mine. I might lead it, but if people don't row with me, it takes a community, it takes a village, as they say, and if we all work together, we're going to create something wonderful. And I'm only there 12 months, but I do feel we have achieved an awful lot in the last 12 months, and we're very excited for the future.
Well, it's clear you've been given a warm welcome and a supportive welcome, and that's great to see. One thought in my head, because we've had this conversation now twice. We had a lady here, 26 years, and considers herself a blow-in. Somebody, is it
16 years.
You consider yourself a blow-in, and obviously 1 year you consider yourself
I'm
a
definitely
blow-in.
a blow-in.
At what point does a person cease to be a blow-in? I'd love to know from listeners if there's a rule of thumb on that.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm an awfully 16 years and I'd still consider myself a blow-in, you know? It's funny, isn't it?
It is indeed. And
Yeah.
in my case, 22 years. Yeah, blow-in.
Yeah, it's gas.
083 30 10 103. Text and WhatsApp if there's a rule on blow-ins. But Bronwyn and Assumpta, thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Now, still to come on Midlands 103, and indeed up next, if you've one of those jobs around the house that you keep putting off, Brian Cloonan, Mr. Fix-It, is here. Brian Cloonan, good morning. How are we?
Good, Will. How are you?
I'm in great form. Cloughan is a wonderfully welcoming part of the Midlands, very busy. And we are here just looking out at all of the cars passing on a road that I remember 10 years ago, there was traffic on it, but it has become a big hub, I think, for lots of heavy goods vehicles to pass on, a lot of north-south traffic making its way through here. And you can see how some of the local businesses have really latched onto it and they're thriving, which is great.
That's fantastic.
Anyway, this is not so much the serious part of the programme. This is when we hopefully help out with a few DIY questions and no doubt meander on quite a few tangents.
This is a very serious part of the programme that I take very seriously. Excuse me.
That makes one of us. So Niall is first out and he says, getting ready for electric picnic this year and I've left it all to the last minute. We have a 4-man tent that the box said was waterproof, but the last time we used it, there was heavy rain and water did get in. Now, I've heard all sorts of theories about how to seal it. Does Brian have any ideas?
Right, so kind of two options. One is you can get, there's some very good spray-on tent sealers, basically. There's spray-on and brush-on, whatever you want. Fab Seal, I think it is one of the best known ones. But there's loads of different brands out there. And you would assemble the tent, spray it. So spray, obviously, the roof really is obviously the crucial bit. Now, the other thing you just ask is there a fly sheet with it? So most better tents have a fly sheet. And the fly sheet is a separate, so you have the tent, and then you've basically another sheet on top of that, and there's about a 50 mil or 2 inch gap between the roof of the tent and the fly sheet. So if you imagine you can make your own fly sheet if it's a very typical straightforward tent with an apex roof. In other words, 2 sides, flat sides. And then what you would do is you'd make your own fly sheet if there's not one on it. Just get a tarpaulin. You'll buy a tarpaulin in every hardware shop, motor factories, agri shop. They all have them. So just measure up what you'd need. And the idea is the tarpaulin, like the fly sheet, has to be not sitting directly on the tent. It has to be slightly up above it. So you have to concoct a thing that allows the fly sheet, usually just putting cable ties onto the poles that are there. But if you got a tarpaulin, if you get a fly sheet and put it, if there isn't one on it, put it over the tent, it will really make it waterproof, because if it was touching it, it tends to allow a degree of condensation in. If it's not touching it, it really will work very, very well. But obviously, if the tent is not your traditional 2 flat sides, if it's an unusual shape, it's much more difficult then to make the fly sheet sit in place. particularly if it's windy. So like all these things, fixing the tent pegs down is really important. Get plenty of tent pegs. Always put them in opposite directions. So you put them in the opposite direction to the way the wind is likely to be dragging it. So you'd hammer them in towards the tent at an angle down towards the tent, but you might put the next one down in the opposite direction and so on. And if you have plenty of pegs and they cost very little, put 2 pegs down in every rope and one in 2 different directions, and that really makes it so much stronger. Or else, as I say, just spray the roof of the tent with Fabsil or something like it, and it definitely has an incredibly good. It's completely clear, you won't even know it's done, but it definitely makes it so much more waterproof.
Quite a few experienced picnickers have texted to say that it is often a case of a tent not assembled properly when water gets in.
Yes, okay, yeah, that the water is pooling on it and okay, they maybe not taut enough or whatever. Yeah, okay, fair point.
I did ask the burning question earlier about how long you have to live somewhere before you're no longer considered a blow-in. And Marie says she's been 58 years in Mount Mellick and she's still a blow-in. No hope for me in Clonbelow.
Definitely no hope. Well, they don't want you there anyway. They never wanted you there.
Well done, Cloonan. Full marks. Okay. Next question is from Brenda, who says her husband painted the door, the architrave and the skirting boards. And he actually did a fantastic job.
Great. I hear a but coming though.
Pleasure, at having to say that. Anyway, there is a but. The paint looks lovely and I'm delighted, but I'm not so thrilled about the paint drops on the floor tiles below. I don't want to ruin my tiles taking this off. What would be gentle enough to preserve the tiles but get rid of the paint?
Well, assuming they're ceramic tiles are remarkably tough. So we don't know now whether it's water-based or oil-based. Because nowadays, so years ago, if you painted, doors, timber, architrave and doors and skirting board, you'd always have been using an oil-based paint. Nowadays, half the time it would be water-based. And how you'll know the difference is if you pick up a tin and there's almost no smell from it and it dries really quickly, then it's water-based. Now, obviously, the back of the tin will also say wash out your brushes with warm soapy water as opposed to white spirits. But you'll know from the smell straight away. The oil-based one will smell quite strongly. The smell will hang around a lot longer. And so 9 times out of 10, if someone came in to me and said, I want to paint the timber in my kitchen, I don't mean the kitchen units, but the architrave and the doors and so on, I'd say go water-based, because then you don't have that heavy smell hanging around for quite some time. Not quite as tough as an oil-based paint, so that's why if you were painting kitchen units that get a lot of use, then you'd probably go an oil-based finish on that, because it is that little bit tougher. So what to do? I'd say, look, go to your local motor factors or hardware shop or paint shop and get a small tin of cellulose thinners and get a nylon scarring pad. Wear gloves. It's not. If it gets into a cut, oh my God, you'll know all about it. And it absolutely stinks. So it's a really strong smell. But the beauty is it'll take off either of the paints really, really quickly. So what you'll be doing is open every window and door. Don't have any naked flame around, because like a lot of these things, it's a low flash point. But you'll need very little of it. So rather, you can pour it on the tile, or you can pour it on the ceramic nylon, on the nylon pad, and then just rub, and then have a rag, an old t-shirt, something cotton, just to wipe it off as you go. So rub, wipe. You'll do it quite quickly, and apart from the smell, which will disappear quite quickly, because it's not like the paint itself, because it's cellulose, it evaporates away so quickly, and by leaving all the windows and doors open, the smell will be gone by the end of the day, no problem whatsoever. So cellulose thinners, but very strong smell and a very low flash point, so no naked flame. Don't be having the cigarette hanging out of the corner of your mouth when you're doing the job. A little bit of common sense, which, as we know, isn't that common in your house.
Well, it's really a misnomer. Breege is in Stradbally and says she left her hairdryer in the sun, and now the handle part has become very sticky. It's hard rubber, but it's hard to use now. So what could she put on it to remove this stickiness? It's a rather expensive hairdryer.
Right. Well, that's why I never leave my hairdryer in the sun, Will. ever.
No,
ever.
No, I
Yeah,
believe you're probably
I'm
the
very
least
careful.
qualified person to answer this question.
I'm
really,
very
aren't you?
careful with my hairdryer. I think if you wipe it with alcohol, it'll probably do it. So wipe it down with methylated spirits, a white alcohol, so gin or vodka, and I think you'll probably find it'll do it. You could also find by putting it in the fridge for a couple of hours, in a bag in the fridge where it doesn't get any moisture, it might be enough to do it. But I think just wipe it down with the alcohol and I think it'll be fine.
Ina pitches in, she says, if you're not born and reared in an area, then you will always be a blow-in.
Yeah.
Well, technically, many of us are born in, let's say, Hollow Street in Dublin and then come home. So, come on.
Yeah, but it depends how much of an effort you make to fit in as well. Like if you're someone that doesn't participate in the community and do volunteer work and so on, I'm not specifically pointing at you, just the type. It's harder to fit in.
Joe says, when the tent is erected and tight, don't touch the top or the sides with your hands, as this will cause a drop. I suppose it's when the inner layer and the outer layer meet is what he means there.
When you're inside the tent. Yeah, exactly. So by pushing up against it from the inside, sometimes people would shove, like if they have camping chairs, and they might shove them over to the edge, out of the way, to keep them in the tent. But then the problem is, if that chair is exactly as he says, if he's shoving the roof of the tent against the fly sheet and they meet. So we were saying it's really important to have a gap between the fly sheet and the tent, but if you push up the material that it meets, that'll cause a leak. He's spot on. Well done.
Right. A listener says they have a crack in their window and they are concerned it's going to spread. Is there anything that will prevent it happening? It's hard to tell now. Are we looking at, double glaze, which layer it's on?
Well, you'll always know which layer it's on if you get your fingernail and run it across the crack from the inside or the outside. You'll feel it. You'll definitely feel it. And even if not your fingernail, if you're like you and have your fingernails chewed to the quick, then just get something sharp like you don't want to scratch it now. Do you know what? Your credit card. Use a credit card. The corner of the credit card would be enough that you'd feel the crack when you come across it, but it won't scratch it in any way. And then what you do is get some clear epoxy glue. So any 2-pack glue. There's loads of different brands out there, but make sure and get a clear one. And it's a 2-pack glue. You mix it. In this case, because you don't want it running down the window, you kind of want it staying as a little fine blob at the end of the crack. So you do it both ends of the crack to stop it getting any worse. And you keep mixing and mixing, so it'll become firm in a couple of minutes. And as soon as you feel it beginning to set, then apply it to the glass, and it'll stay then as a blob, which is what you want, as opposed to running down the window away from the crack, which is not what you want.
Asking for a friend, this one. When your 11-year-old is being cheeky because he wants to stay on the Xbox all day because it's his last day before school, should you turn it off remotely?
No, just let him. It's his last day. Don't be such a Grinch.
It's already switched off. I just hit the
You
button
are
there.
such a Grinch. You're so mean.
11:15. More from Brian after these. Still to talk about today, 80,000 people and some major music names. We take you behind the scenes for a sneak peek of Electric Picnic 2026. And also, in one Midlands village, intimidation, vandalism, claims of open drug dealing, and residents say they've had enough. But what needs to change? Brian Clunan is with us from Clunan's Hardware in Tullamore. Hilda says the Grinch is a good guy. His actions make you remember to be happy with what you have. So there.
Hey, yeah, you make a very good Grinch, except you don't make anyone happy. This kind of thing, yeah.
Well,
Anyway, come here. Listen, Liam just came
in.
into studio. You ignored the question completely, and he said nothing new in that. Mary was on. She has a problem with windows. She has a little key that does all the windows in the house, and the key is twisted or cracked. So she's just wondering about getting a new key. But yeah, look, they tend to be a fairly standard key. So most locksmiths will have a bunch of window keys. Like a lot of them are pre-cut, and if you bring in the key, they'll 9 times out of 10. Now, what I would say, if it's not a big deal, and it's genuinely not, all these PVC window handles, they're all standard. So there's just 2 screws keep them in place. So one at the top, and then one is revealed when you open. When you twist the handle up, you'll see the one at the bottom, and you can just unscrew that. And then the one at the top usually is hidden by a little bit of plastic or a little bit of rubber that just pops off. So if you were to bring in the window handle along with the key, if they don't have a key in stock, just a ready-made key to hand out to you, well then once they have the window handle there, they'll be able to cut a key from your damaged or broken key that will do and by bringing in the handle, they can test it in the handle you have, and then if it works in that handle, it will obviously work in all the rest. And if ever you have a damaged window handle like that, they're very, very easy. As I say, flick it up, look at this, we'll find the screw at the bottom, clearly you'll see it, and the one above, generally just for aesthetics, for appearance, has a little black or white plastic or gold, depending on the colour. It has a little cover to hide the screw. But they're all freely available in every shop that'll sell ironmongery or window or door fittings.
Sorry, you mentioned the name of a staff member who came in, said I had ignored a message, and I just wanted to put their name on the P45. Who was it?
I forget who it was. I've totally forgotten now.
That's okay, there are cameras. Olivia is in Dangan, and she says, recently I had a painter in to do some work around the house, and I'm really happy with how it all turned out in the end.
Great. In the end.
What word comes next, Brian?
There's definitely a but. There's always a but.
Yep.
Yeah.
But there's one part that has annoyed me. At the back door, on the frame, there's a glue or a sticky residue from the tape that he used, and I just hate seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
I want it gone without damaging the new paint.
Okay. So I suppose taking one step back, we often point out to people that masking tape is only designed to be left on for a maximum of 8 hours. And to be honest with you, in that heat, in the extreme heat we had, now technically you shouldn't be, probably won't be an issue again this year, but you shouldn't be painting above 25 degrees, or when the temperature is likely to be getting above 25 degrees in the next 3 hours after painting. So there is if you're going to be using masking tape, try and get one of the blue 14-day masking tapes. Nowadays, they used to be much more expensive than ordinary masking tape, and now they're more or less the same price. So they're always blue. Don't know why. I think Blue Dolphin was the first brand out there, and then everybody just made their 14-day tape blue, and that definitely has it's a very good tape, but it will stay without leaving a residue behind much longer than ordinary masking tape. So in this case, what you'll try is just a t-shirt and some alcohol and see if that does it. And if it doesn't do it, alcohol again being surgical spirits, methylated spirits, most hand sanitizer, clear ones, once they're not a gel, should be fine, or gin or vodka. And if that doesn't do it, use the thing called sticky stuff remover. And sticky stuff remover is a gel, and the reason it works so well is it's a gel, so it stays in place. So obviously when you use alcohol, it evaporates away almost immediately. So the beauty of the gel is you spray it on, you can now leave it for half an hour, and the glue becomes really soft, and then you just wipe it off. And both of those should not have any effect on the painted surface, but always just do a test area first. And if there's going to be a reaction, the darker the colour, the more likely a reaction. So if it's painted white or cream or magnolia or whatever, you definitely should be fine. The most delicate paint of all is red, and then you're on to the blacks and so on. So just if it's a dark colour, do a test area. It doesn't have to be where the glue is. You're just putting it on and leaving it on for the few minutes on a little corner that people won't see it, maybe at the edge of the architrave or whatever, that you're just testing it to see, is the paint going to have any reaction to the chemical? And then if it doesn't, you know what to do where it is a problem.
Benji is in Athlone and
Benji
says, from the home house we've been given an old water pump, and as far as I know, it belonged to my great-granny's farm.
Oh, wow.
It's a big, heavy cast iron thing, and was painted black at some time in the past, but now is all rusty and it's shook looking. I want to do it up and paint it. So what's the best way? I'm thinking paint it up something of a crazy colour, but that might be a bit inappropriate for Granny's old pump.
No.
That depends what you're matching it in with.
Yeah, and look, if you paint it black...
By the way, Brian, you may say there are two ladies here in Cloughan looking very happy. You may say hello, ladies.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
Oh, you've just scared them. They've gone running.
I get that a lot, funny enough. So, yeah, look, there's no problem painting it. I would say, if it's... Well, first of all, you should always put some sort of a plaque or a note, anything you have that goes back a generation or 2 generations, just put a note on it somewhere that, on something that won't, get washed away in rain. Because sometimes, people don't realise that that's such an important piece of history in your family. And sometimes it can be overlooked and forgotten by the next generation. And it really is important. And there's no problem in painting it a bright green. Like, a lot of that stuff would have been painted bright colours because you want it to be noticed. When someone looks at it in the garden, if it's black, it blends in. If it's a really bright colour, people say, oh, look at the old pump. Oh, yeah, that belonged to my great-great-granny. And do the maths and work out that belonged to my great-great-granny. She had it 120 years or, 80 years or whatever it is.
She had it 120 years.
Well, she had
lived to a great age, didn't she?
She had it 120 years ago. Because it's rusty, what I would do is there's some really good, and they make life so much easier, some really good rust neutralizer, rust removers. And they really, back in the storm, we had cast iron guttering that was destroyed, and it took me a long time to get a replacement for it. And when we got it, it looks like it's fit for the scrap. It was the scrapyard we bought it from, but it was so rusty. So it just brushed on the rust neutralizer, and it completely neutralised the rust. And normally, what you'd be doing to get all that rust off, you'd be out with an angle grinder and a wire brush and a lot of time and a lot of dust and a lot of dirt and mess. And now all I had to do was brush this on, leave it overnight, and then wash it off with water. And then either spray, you don't have to use a primer, but it will benefit from it. So buy a little tin of rust primer, spray. Spray is always easier with something like that, with a pump, where it's all different, different angles and different edges. And just spray on the primer, and then you can paint it with any colour paint that you want. The primer will normally be either grey or kind of a rusty brown colour. The grey means it has zinc in it, which to my view makes it slightly better. There's loads of different brands out there. And then just paint it whatever colour you want. And again, you can get a spray or you can get a brush on, whatever you're most comfortable with. But a spray will definitely be that little bit easier to use for all those awkward bits.
Well, this awkward bit is out of here. So, Brian, we'll chat to you again next Wednesday, 10:20.
Thanks, Will.
Our programme continues from Cloughan in County Offaly after the news at 11. Good morning. Well, we are 48 hours removed from Electric Picnic 2026. 80,000 people shall descend upon Stradbally in County Laois for its 21st big occasion, and very much looking forward to CMAT and Somber and Amble and Zara Larson and many other artists taking to the stage. And this year also sees the addition of the Glow Depot, which will showcase hip-hop, and also the Barefoot Garden, if you need some time to chill out and relax. So Midlands 103's Daniel Boyne got a preview of the site yesterday, and he begins his report with comedian Carl Spain, who shall be emceeing in the comedy tent all through the weekend.
I think the comedy tent it's always consistent. You'll have a laugh. It's the thing with comedy anyway is you might find a comedian you absolutely adore, and you'll always discover new people. For all the superstars, all the, you go Joanne McNally in the Tree Arena and stuff like that. She used to be here. So there's future Joanne McNallys hidden amongst the lineup here, and it's your job to find them. I do think when we have the surface down, it is more of it can be a thing for people to go when they're hangovers and nurse them for a few hours before they go again. You will see people asleep and people leaning up against things and facing out and they'll go facing the other way, so they'll try not to be seen from the stage. But no, the comedy tent, it's a good array. Like your headline is Shane Todd, Deirdre O'Kane and Mario Rosenstock. You've 3 brilliant acts, all very different but all very brilliant, and all selling out big tours and well known to people. And throughout the day you'll realise who's got the social media platform, because you suddenly see hundreds of people arriving in and going, what the hell, and then they've got loads of followers. But it's a bit of that, but it's a great weekend, and sometimes it's fun as the MC, knowing that the comedian is going on hungover themselves and they've got to do magic for comedy for 20 minutes and go, hey everybody, it's such a great time we're having. So there's a bit of that, but it's all fun. Yeah. I love doing it. I love the festival. I do miss a lot of the music, but I saw Kylie. And I saw Chapel Rowan. Was that last year?
Yes, it was
last year. And Kylie was the year before, was she?
It was the year before,
yeah. I've seen Duran Duran.
Icons, I love it.
I saw 3 songs of the Waterboys.
Oh, fun.
And I saw the Saw Doctors, which was awesome, and they're back again.
Food is a big part of the festival this year, and as Irish palates continue to expand, so do the options available for festival goers. Richard Irwin from Fusion Food explains what people can expect at the picnic this year.
So we've got the elements that everybody expects, the burgers, the spice bags, etc., out on site. But this year we've got a lot of really strong food operators that are all bringing global food. So we've got a Bile, which has some West African foods. We've got some authentic noodles from Bang Bang. We've got some, in Stradbally Diner, we've got some American food. We've got some great chicken wings that are just, the sauces on them are unbelievable. So we're trying to bring more restaurant standard food into a setting which is very much grab and go.
What are you doing here today?
Oh, I'm here today because I've been selected to play on Saturday, the 29th of August, at Electric Keys to play piano. So I'm delighted to come down here. I got selected then to play at the opening of the press, so I'm delighted to be down here today.
And how long are you playing piano?
I've been playing piano for about 5 years. It started in COVID, and I just went from there, started learning songs, and then I got into like Queen and other artists so
you're a Freddie Mercury fan?
Big Freddie Mercury fan, yeah. It's how I started off. Went to the cinema to see the movie actually when I was just like 10, and I didn't really found my music yet, and I saw Rami Malek play Freddie, and I was just like, yeah, I want a piano, I want to start learning, and I started learning, and after that I went from there, and it was brilliant.
And will this be your first time playing a major festival?
This is my first time ever at Electric Picnic, ever at a festival, so it's a great one to start off at, yeah. So,
are you nervous?
I am a bit nervous, yeah. It is a bit daunting because I've never done anything like this before, but yeah, hopefully it's the start of something big now. So,
away from the music and the crowds, the Cree area offers festival goers a welcoming space to take a break from the wilder side of Electric Picnic and reconnect with the earth. Cree organiser Dahi Nevin explains why people can expect from the heart of the event this year.
Geographically, we literally are in the heart of the festival, and we've always kind of... Cree's been here for 10 or more, about 6 years now with the name Cree, and really it's a space for people to come back in from the wider distance part of the festivals, where it's the large stages, a lot of performance, a lot of music, you're in the woods and all that, so it's a place for people simply to come back and get a more nature-based, more grounded, more kind of regulating. So there's workshops going on, we've stages creating, we've harp music happening all weekend as well on the stage behind us, and especially Serenity Garden. It's a place we have an open fire. It's low stimulation. It's like nervous system regulation in this space as well. They just can land in, know that they can just be somewhere where too much stimulation and just have a moment to rest.
And what type of workshops will there be over the weekend here?
Oh, we've lots of workshops. So we've got yoga, osquelga, we've got reggae yoga happening, we've got kirtan, so it's like chanting together. We got more up-tempo stuff happening later in the day, in the evening, so kind of more DJ and that. Oh my god, we've got some very eclectic stuff going on.
New to the festival this year is the Glow Depot, created by John Kenny, a dedicated stage to the Irish hip-hop and alternative music scene, with special parties taking place on Thursday and Friday night.
So the Glow Depot is a new space at the Electric Picnic Festival, and it's dedicated primarily to Irish hip-hop and underground acts. So we're going to have a lot of kind of neo-soul, Irish hip-hop, and it's really the first time, it's kind of a milestone, I guess, for Irish hip-hop, because it's the first time that there's a dedicated space at the largest music festival in the country. So we've been working on this for about the last year to put it together. We're going to have a massive party on Thursday night. Ping Pong Company are going to come down for a bit of a vibe, so it should be really, really good there. We're really looking forward to it.
The Laois Timahome Men's Choir have become something of a staple at Electric Picnic. Organiser Damien Bowe says while they may not be a traditional choir, the group brings together men from all walks of life, using music and friendship to support men's mental health.
Staple at the event, that's a good one. Well, it does, yeah, absolutely. Look, this is a very unique project. Look, it's guys from all walks of life just get together for a bit of fun, and the benefits are far more reaching. It's not about singing, it's not about music, it's all about camaraderie, it's about community spirit, it's about men's mental health as well. You know, we've got a lot of guys in this group who live on their own, who may not, have any other interests really, and we've a lot of lads as well who finished playing sport into their late 30s, early 40s, and sort of found themselves not part of a group anymore, and that's where this has been so successful. And the fact that we rehearse in the pubs on a Monday night in the local village as well, that's a huge help,
And overseeing it all is Electric Picnic Festival Director Melvin. He says the excitement of Electric Picnic never gets old.
I don't know, I think maybe the Saw Doctors and the Mayo moment, that might well be a big moment for us all, I think. Vanderman, for definite. Amble on the main stage, I think that's just fantastic, having seen them come through here at the picnic. And the whole lineup, of course, is extraordinary, but they would be the three highlights for me, I'd say.
Melvin, we were in the Barefoot Arena, and I'm calling it the wrong name, but essentially the Barefoot area earlier, and they gave you full credit for coming up with the idea. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I think we try really hard here at the picnic on all sorts of levels, but one of the things that we sort of try and do is make sure people have one hell of a time, and people can go a little over the top, and actually reconnecting with the earth is a way to actually just rebalance yourself. And I know a lot of you did take your shoes and socks off, and it actually does make a difference to the calmness of your life, and it's something I love doing myself, and I just thought, wouldn't it be fantastic to be able to do it in the picnic?
How do you keep it fresh every year? How do you keep things different?
Oh, people just keep coming with ideas, and sometimes, occasionally, like the Barefoot Garden, I have one myself, but they're few and far between, to be fair. It's other people that bring loads of different ideas. And, the Glow Depot team, in fairness, it was my idea to repurpose what was Trenchtown, and I think what Trenchtown have done in Treasure Beach now is much, much better, and it's really strong. And I asked the sort of art lot guys to produce a new stage, and they've come up with a great new stage, and I think it just looks fantastic, and it's going to be a great weekend, and it's lifted that whole area quite a lot, and I'm really pleased about that. So where do they start? I don't know where they start, to be honest. Sometimes I don't sleep well. That's where they start.
What are your festival essentials? What should people be bringing with them?
Hope. Just hope. Hope for good weather, hope for the best time of their lives. I think we can guarantee the best time of their lives. We can't guarantee the weather.
One of the initiatives that was introduced in recent years that seems to have gone down well is the HSE drug tent. So that's happening again this year. What are your concerns when it comes to sort of the new types of drugs out there?
Well, I think everybody has to be ever vigilant about drugs, really, and drugs are just part and parcel of society now, and we have a lot of people gathered in the same place, and if we can work with the HSE to get over key messaging about drugs, which is what we try to do, whether it's key messaging about drugs here at the picnic or elsewhere, it's all part and parcel of society now, and so it's just about working with the HSE, getting the message out, and hoping that people, if they choose to use illegal drugs, and I hope they don't, but if they choose to do so, that they do so responsibly.
And that's Melvin Ben of Festival Republic, concluding that report by Midlands 103's Daniel Boyne. So, looking forward to bringing you this programme from behind the scenes at Electric Picnic on Friday. And you never know which artists we'll bump into. Now, still on our agenda today, live from Cloughan in County Offaly, how a different village is faced with open drug dealing, vandalism and other problems which they say have to stop. But how do residents get on top of that problem, along with the Garda and other stakeholders? Plus, the local pub. Some people are quick to lament the demise of the humble rural bar. But one publican from the Midlands has been absolutely fighting back and doing so brilliantly. And if you were listening yesterday, I played a poem by this man, and if you missed it, well, it's coming up again a little bit later. Suffice to say, it's gotten a huge reaction, and when you hear it, you'll understand why. 11:15. There are two very different stories being told about young people in Castlepollard in County Westmeath. One is definitely a good one, a new full-time Feroiga youth service designed to give young people somewhere to go, somebody to talk to, and something constructive to be part of. But the other is considerably less comfortable. Residents and businesses say a small group is responsible for an upsurge in vandalism, intimidation and antisocial behaviour. There are allegations of criminal damage, break-ins and even open drug-taking and drug-dealing. The Castlepollard town team is now writing to the Garda superintendent demanding answers, including a greater Garda presence at weekends. But obviously there's an important distinction. Nobody wants to brand a generation of local teenagers as troublemakers just because of the actions of a few. But equally, people shouldn't have to feel intimidated in their own town. Stephen O'Brien is with Castlepollard Local Development. Stephen, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Will. Thanks for calling.
Let's strip away some of those Facebook posts and rumours and local chatter. What's actually happening in Castlepollard that has brought things to this point?
Yes, yeah. No, good to talk with you. I think, as you say, it's very easy. A headline could, picture a town in a certain way, in a certain light, and there's always more to be seen. You have to drill down and look, even if it's not evident at first light, to look for the positive. There are difficulties in Castlepollard. I'm not going to deny that. I think these were flagged, at least a year ago. And they were set aside. They were kind of suggested, this is because of the new bus service and this is trouble coming from out of town, etc. And that isn't the case. There is trouble in Castlepollard. It's regrettable, but it is homegrown. It is there. It's part of any town, but it is, I think, as has been pointed out elsewhere, it is a minority situation. It needs to be addressed. It needs to be addressed in a reasonable manner, in a reasoned manner. But it certainly, there's no mileage, there's no advantage in denying that that we have some problems in Castlepollard.
And is it a sudden escalation over the summer, or has something been building for longer?
I think there has been some level of behaviour there, and I'm going to be very cautious. I don't want to name anybody or indicate any in particular event because, I hope that the Gardaí are doing their job and, I don't want to interfere with any process that may be ongoing. But I think there has been a steady build. I think on some level you can say, a long hot summer and, we're at the tail end of the summer before schools go back, which may have some relevance to, shall we say, the routine and the nighttime routine of some younger people who you would think, I would hope, would be home, at least at home or perhaps in bed sooner, would be, the other times of the year, But undoubtedly, I have heard accounts of particularly concerning events. I think they've been highlighted. I don't know whether you've read through that particular Facebook post.
I have, yeah.
Suggesting some criminal damage, intimidation, and repeated visitations to certain houses and venues, which is very disturbing. I cannot condone it in any way, and nobody would.
So the official Garda information puts Castlepollard within the Westmeath community engagement area, but unlike Mullingar, which has a 24-hour station, Castlepollard's station arrangements are listed as varied. So is this fundamentally a numbers problem?
I think, looking at it quickly, you could take that view. You could look at the station and say it's not open full time. The Garda numbers aren't dedicated strictly to the town of Castlepollard, but I think a response to antisocial behaviour or criminal behaviour, low grade, or has to be bigger than or more than just Garda numbers. It's very easy to make that call, we want more guards. I don't know that there is not a townland, a parish, a village or a town or a city that isn't asking for more Garda resources, and it's a constant request. But, we can't all get them if we all call for them. And it is not the entirety, the answer to the situation that's in the town at present. You have to build community from the ground up. It's about cooperation, and there's multiple things that can be done to, take away the environment for this, take away the need for this, or these kind of particular levels of behaviour. And I think one of the positive ones is that we do now have a Foróige UBU project in the town. It's only there a few months. I think the longer it's there and embedded in, it will breed further results for change or for the positivity for the town, for this particular cohort of people. But there may be some people who will not initially be reached, and they may find themselves, addressed in different ways in different fora.
People will always ask in this situation, where are the parents, and have attempts been made to engage with the families?
I can't say that I'm privy to that. I think there's, for the size of the town, it's still small enough for people to know each other, and word will get around, does get around. I think this is the eternal problem. If somebody is 15 or 16 or 17, are they fully responsible, or are their parents responsible? And at what level do you draw the line, and how do you figure that out? It's not a particular question I can answer for you in that sense.
I think a listener has been very thoughtful in their message here, because they're asking, do we have any sense of why this group emerges? So is it boredom? Is it a lack of consequences? Has social media played a part? In other words, understanding the motivation might be the key to fixing what has happened.
That is true. And I think there's always going to be a multiplicity of factors that feed into the behaviour. It may well be opportunity, it may well be boredom, there may well be social disadvantage. Castlepollard is a town that has pockets of disadvantage as well. And again, summertime, little to do, a lack of opportunity, and a lack of positive outlets for people. So that there's always a multiple situation there leading into these kind of behaviours. And of course, once somebody starts, or once one group of youths, can use that phrase, start, more will follow them into it. So really, it is important to redirect. It is possible to focus them in more positive ways, and to kind of just reduce the appeal of this kind of behaviour.
Finally, and we should point out the good in Castlepollard, as I did try to in the beginning. We are talking about a relatively small group, and so some of the other initiatives that young people are involved in that are far more positive. Just give us a final word about those.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And can I just chip in that our own group, Castlepollard Local Development, has engaged with the local community safety partnership over the past year on a couple of occasions, and we brought them to town to host their roadshow when they were formulating their plan. I think it's to be published soon. And also we've hosted some crime prevention events. So there are things happening that need to happen in promotion of engagement of the public with the guards, and engagement with the processes of law and order. Calling, as I say there at the start, calling for more numbers at a particular time, say the weekend, is one thing. But actually, you need to engage sooner in those processes. There are things in the built environment, there are things in terms of services and outlets that are provided over a longer term, and they involve the engagement of volunteers, of volunteer community organisations, etc., operating under the idea, the overall idea of social inclusion, that we don't leave people behind, and then the benefit is we don't have to suffer these kinds of behaviours. So I think that's an important thing to point out.
Stephen,
in terms of,
on the young people specifically, I mentioned Foróige. What else springs to mind that's positive when you think of the next generation in Castlepollard?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we have Foróga, as you mentioned, and I hope I understand they're going to actually start a volunteer-led youth club in the near future. It's not there yet, but it will be a positive outlet. There was, of course, Kyotos, excuse me. We have the hurling club and gym. You know, there are other sporting events, outlets in the area. Not necessarily for everyone, but there's plenty to choose from. And of course, we're working on the built environment of the town itself, and it's getting an uplift, which is a positive thing. You know, so there's always things to do and always more happening than those headline acts that appear on the street, on the square, etc. In areas of the town where perhaps people are saying, well, let's not go there because I've seen graffiti and I don't like the look of it. There's always things happening, but unfortunately, they may well be out of your line of sight, but there are good things happening, and there are good kids in Castlepollard. The kids are all right.
Well, no better note to finish on. Stephen, grateful for your time today. Thank you.
Thank you indeed. Best of luck.
Now, that is Stephen O'Brien, I should say. Stephen is with the Castlepollard Local Development Group, and if you are living in the town and you have a particular solution or approach that should be taken that we haven't mentioned, well, please 083 30 10 103 on text and on WhatsApp. Just looking at the last public photographs to have been taken of the late Dolly Parton. So June 24th, only just a few weeks ago, she stepped out for an appearance at Dolly's Tennessean travel stop ribbon cutting ceremony. It was an annual occasion, and she made a surprise appearance, looking resplendent as ever in all of her colour, hair not a single strand out of place, big smile. And I suppose that's the nature of cancer as well sometimes, isn't it? That you can look radiant and in full health and still only have a very short time left to live. It is such a deceiving illness. So, Dolly Parton, the tributes continue, and I'm just reading here some of the lovely listener memories of seeing Dolly Parton over the years. One person, Margaret in Moat, having watched her in Dublin, it was probably the best, most brilliant concert I ever experienced, she says. So, back to your messages on Dolly and all of the other topics today in just a few minutes. But the rural pub, some are very quick to write its obituary, but there was a brilliant, brilliant social media post from Huck's Singing Pub in Banagher earlier this week. I played some audio from it yesterday. Have a listen again in a few minutes' time, and let's see, is there a learning from what they're doing in that particular part of the Midlands that others can take and embrace wherever you might be? Because the rural pub, for many of us, is that meeting spot. It's where that old wisdom will always be dispensed. It's where young interact with old, and music is that universal language that we can all speak. So having it preserved, and not only preserved but thriving, is in the interests of so many communities. That conversation after these. Now, you may have been listening yesterday when we took from Facebook what I think is just a brilliant, brilliant synopsis of what makes the local pub so integral to communities across the Midlands, and how there are some, particularly in the more, shall we say, D4 areas of Dublin, that are quick to write it off. Well, let's have a listen to what Ger Hock had to say.
I heard two fellas say in a podcast that the Irish pub is a thing of the past. Been swapped for a sauna and spa. Instead of pints and crack, it's namaste and blah blah. A gospel of opinion preached from the podcast pulpit by two lads from the Pale, hard tell if they were male. Spotty faces still in braces, accents of the mid-Atlantic variety, lecturing the world on sobriety. The future being AI, so old ways must die. Well, I'm here to declare this institution has survived Viking invasion, wars, plagues and mass immigration. And I reckon it still has a few pints left in the conversation. Maybe we're entering an age of digital fatigue, working from home, Google Chrome, Zoom, doom scrolls taking its toll. When COVID hit, we had the phone in our hands, screens in our faces, but what did we miss? People, places and the crack. The pub wasn't just a place for a pint, but a living space to make a point, tell a story, sing a song, and discover you'd been arguing with the wrong fella all along. The internet doesn't have to kill the pubs. I use it to open the doors wider, creating a global living room for international relations to boom. People are hungry for something real. Food round a table, a tall tale or fable, live music in the air, a cool pint of beer, and laughter you can actually hear. The pub is the antidote to isolation, the community's living room, the heart of the nation, filled with characters, laughter and cheer, and some vulgar wisdom shouted from someone 3 pints in the rear. And when those podcasters tire of ChatGPT's convenient lore, they'll wander back to the original oracle they've ignored before, the barstool philosopher, who may rarely be right, but he'll confidently explain why the whole world's full of shite.
Now that is Ger Hawk from Hawk's Singing Pub in Banagher, and it's gotten a huge reaction, as many of his videos often do. Ger, good morning.
Good morning, Will. How are you doing?
Had somebody in Dublin on a podcast annoyed you to spark all of this?
Would you believe? No, I'll tell you, I was thinking about just the future of the business, because that's my livelihood, and how I had heard a little, they're all talking about how pubs are disappearing and how people aren't socialising, and the phone and the internet is kind of the downfall of all this. So I just kind of imagined up what these two guys in the Pale would be like talking about. It's like all these guys on these podcasts are pontificating, offering up these unqualified opinions on subjects they actually know nothing on. It's all theory. So I just they're just two imaginary characters, these two guys in their mother's basement who haven't actually lived. It's all over the internet. You go online and every day there's some guy trying to sell you a course on how to live your life when he's actually hiding in his basement. They're not living in reality. So that was kind of the I was having a little joust at that whole industry rather than anyone in particular, we'll say.
But you fairly hit back at your fictional opponent, because what listeners couldn't see there is obviously you had a video montage underneath it, and your pub is heaving most weekends. And that is something of a standout. You don't see it everywhere. So what's the secret sauce?
Yeah, you see, well, there is definitely a decline in the pub industry in Ireland, all over the world in general. Over the last, I think the statistics are 1 in 4 pubs in Ireland have closed in the last 20-25 years. Like when I grew up in Banagher, you had maybe 11 pubs, and now you only have 4. So it is definitely a declining industry. So it's almost like running a pub now in rural Ireland has been out on the Western Front in the Wild West, and there's no footfall. So literally you have to create something worth going out for, and making it worth their while to come and having more than just a drink. It's an experience now. You're providing memories for people. Like we can all, I know that, and the price is another issue where that we're paying the second highest VAT on drink in Europe. I think it's only Finland is higher than us. So
yeah, I think it's excise. It's the whole tax
all
package,
that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm no good at the numbers, to be honest. I'm not a numbers guy. I'm more of a creative guy. But anyway.
Well, I want to actually ask, is it the marketing that has made a difference in Hawks? Because I remember 20 years ago, I had a small little boat. I'd launch it down at the marina in Banagher, sometimes rock up to your place. It was never quiet, but it seems to be drawing in a different crowd now. It's no longer just reliant on the passing trade on the river or the tried and tested locals. You seem to be drawing people from Ballinasloe, certainly from here in Cloughan, from further afield, and of a mix of ages.
Yeah.
So is that a conscious strategy, or is it good luck?
No, it's just, I think it's a blend of many different things. I mean, I built upon what was already there, obviously. My granddad bought the pub in the 40s, and then my father took over in the 70s, and my father and his sisters used to do the music, and it was booming back then. Offaly was booming. Offaly was recession-proof. You had Bord na Móna, you had loads of employment. there was big families everywhere, big population. And then I suppose I took over then. I didn't take over till... I was always kind of involved. Like, I lived abroad, but I'd always come home. I always felt drawn back. And I'd add little things here and there. I suppose each generation of the Huck family left their own individual footprint on the pub. From my grandfather to my father. My mother, she painted all the pictures of the locals, so it's almost like an art museum in the front bar. But then, when I came along, COVID happened as well, and that pushed everything outdoors, and there was a fierce appetite for this al fresco drinking and dining. Food is another big thing you have to really offer, and it's just, if there's less places and money is tighter, when people do go out, it's more like for an occasion. So if you can capture the occasion. So if you want to have your 21st, or what's your next birthday? Is it your 30th coming up? Or
you're very kind.
Very close. Yeah. But like, you know, you get like Martin's big business here in Clohan. He's bringing he's committed his next 10 Christmas parties to the pub over the next 10 years. So thanks, Martin, for that. But anyone out there...
Is this news to you, Martin, by the way?
Well, we're going there Friday the week for a celebration, but we will be there. Yeah,
so book anyone listening now. Get in. The December calendar is already almost full, so you better get in touch. But no,
never waste a marketing.
No, you have to get in there with that. But anyway, I kind of saw the outdoor stuff, and people kind of communicate a little bit freer when they're standing up. But like a smoking area, it's easier. I remember when I was on the go, it was easier chat a woman up out in a smoking area than table to table. It's harder to cross that Rubicon to the table and make the approach. But if you're standing up, hello, have you got a light? It's more conducive to banter and chat. So the
I
outdoor...
nearly started smoking for that reason once upon a time.
Exactly. Well, I did too. I was never a smoker, and I remember in my 20s, here we get a box of fags because we can go out and chat up women and get a light, and that's how you get the crack going.
Not to be recommended, kids, by the way.
No, now, well, they're all vaping now, so that's even worse. All this supposed knowledge on our health and everything, and I think we're declining.
Musically, so to attract, again, a broad crowd, are you selective in the type of artists you book?
Well, I'm trying to be, but like there's a lot of... We've so much talent in the locale that... I mean, there's so much talent around this area. We have Cathal Gang in there from Rula Bula. He's engaged to my sister, and he's there. And then there's a violin player from out the road, Aidan Burke. He's unbelievable, and lots of the other bands I get in. So there's so much talent around here, and you know, we do it 7 days a week. So it is a challenge to fill the calendar for 7 days a week. You know, sure, my music bill I think last year was the guts of 140 grand, you know, so it's a huge...
For artists, it's a vital lifeline
too. Yeah.
So your success is their success. It's symbiotic. Everybody relies on each other. I want to bring Martin into the conversation. Martin runs the XL shop here in Clohan, where we're broadcasting today. And this business is up and running for about 3 years.
Yeah.
And it is heaving. And there are many forecourts around the Midlands that are not doing so well, even on busy roads such as this. So, again, talk to us about what you've managed to do to bring in so many and obviously get that repeat business.
Yeah, I suppose when we designed it, I suppose a lot of the forecourts around the area are old. So we kind of came with the plaza model that you see on the motorways, that we can cater for the articulated lorry and the pensioner, and everyone can fit in, and there's room for everyone, and we're lucky then we have a very good food offering at the moment. Our deli is very strong, and we have a lot of returning customers from, like, you'd be making contacts with people from Dublin that are travelling across the country, and so we are, I suppose, with 3 years we're becoming a destination point now at the moment, thankfully.
So you have, for instance, 2 electric car chargers out there. They're very expensive to install. Do you have to really put your money where your mouth is to stay relevant in that sort of fast-moving business?
Yeah, you definitely do. And I suppose we took the option of installing our own. We didn't go down the ESB route, and So we put in a large investment in that, and people need that now because electric car sales are finally outtaking the diesel, you know. So there is a lot more of them on the road, and they need quick charges. So it is a fast charge, and then obviously we get the footfall into the shop from there. So it's a win-win.
Another feature that, again, listeners may not be able to picture, but there are a lot of trucks stopped here, and you tend to only see that on motorways. But this is a fairly important artery in logistics. So you would get truckers coming in from where? How far afield?
You'd have a lot from the north heading down to Limerick and Cork, and you'd have a lot of from Cavan and that area that would pull in here, and thankfully they use it and they recommend it. And we have the shower facilities for the truck drivers, and because they're the lifeblood of the company, like of the country, because everything relies on a truck to get it from A to B, and so we're happy to cater for them. And there's nowhere really within an hour either side of us that can cater for that sort of customer.
So how many people are working here?
Well, right now, when the summer's a bit busier, we have I think close to 30 between full and part-time staff. So now they're all going back to school and they're all handing their timetables, so it's a bit of a mess at the moment, but
yeah, and I suppose, look, you might not have as much passing trade with tourists and so
Yeah.
on, but your core staff, I'm assuming you still have, what, 15?
yeah, we would have 15 to 20 maybe that would be there all year round, and then the students help fill the void in the busy times.
And these are jobs that 3 years ago simply didn't exist. How sensitive would you be to fuel prices? Because that's been a huge talking point this year. Does that make an impact when fuel is dear and you see it reflected in the shop, or is it a case that people just have to buy it one way or the other?
Yeah, people just have to buy it, but like the margin is so tight on it now, and like it could fluctuate 7 cents. Like you order fuel today, you're not paying that today's price, you're paying tomorrow's price. So like with one tweet from Mr. Trump, everything changes. Like it's gone up 7 cents in one night. We ordered one day, and like we have to carry that sometimes. We're just selling it for cost, or so it's very difficult at the moment to deal with that.
One of the differences with Ger is that he was born and raised in the business that he's in. You don't come from a retail background.
No, I come from construction, and me and my father built this together. I was living in Canada at the time, and we had talked about it for a couple of years, and then he's kind of getting on, but he's still working away. So he said, right, we're going to go or do it or not. So I came home with my now wife, and so we just got Peter Lyons in Tullamore. He designed it and got the planning, and so it was 2 years in the making before we broke ground.
Steep learning curve. So what lessons have you picked up along the way about customer service?
It's very enjoyable.
I give him tutorials every Monday morning at 9. And, smile, Martin, no, smile. And we used the matchstick technique. We put 2 matchsticks in his mouth. And
Is it fair to say you're more back office then?
Yeah. I know, I do be front of house. My wife does the back office, but me and Ger do, we do vent to each other. Because we can't talk to the public about it.
Martin is still doing a little bit for me. Still doing a few renovations on the pub. You always have to be so he's happiest when he has the sledgehammer in his hand, when he can knock a wall and take that frustration.
Okay, so exactly, yeah, you take your frustrations of the day job out when you go to Hawks.
So I open up every morning at 6, and then when my wife comes over around 8:30, 9, I head off, do a bit of building for a few hours to decompress. So it's working okay at the moment.
Well, they're 2 fantastic success stories, albeit I know Hawks is Banagher more so than Cloughan, but again, people would travel, I assume, from here. And how far, actually, do people come at the weekend?
Well, like last weekend, we had a bus from County Clare, a 52-seater. The same night, there was a bus from Portlaoise. There was a bus from Cavan. They're coming from all over. As we were saying, like you create a kind of almost like a mythological destination with you see, I give out about the phones. I said they're the ruination of society, but people aren't going to put their phones down. So you may as well give them a reason to bring them and take them out and video some culture. There is a kind of a cultural revival happening in Ireland at the moment. There's a fierce appetite for folk music, Irish language. You see it everywhere. And if we can capture that, and we've created this kind of a destination. So that's my next project, accommodation. So if anyone in the locale wants to sell me a good big building, I'm going to put maybe 30 or 40 beds in it. And I don't want any opposition from the county council. I want you to give me the planning permission, okay? Or else. Right?
Oh, if only it was that easy.
Do I have to work on this as well?
Martin is going to be in, so, you know, he'll have to take a little sabbatical from the petrochemical industry and come in and get these dorms up and running.
No problem.
Well, gentlemen, it's been fantastic chatting to both of you. Look forward to coming back soon and hearing all about the new fantastic hotel. Hawks Hotel has a certain ring to it. And
it'll be like, you know, Norman Bates, you know, the Bates Motel.
Yes.
The Psycho, the Hitchcock movie. It'll be a bit like that.
Yeah.
Mother!
I thought you were good at marketing. I'm not sure that quite has a ring to it. Ger and Martin, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
For the final part of the programme, we can't come to an area like Cloughan with a huge rural agricultural hinterland and not meet the local chairman of the IFA. Well, he happens to be the chairman of Offaly IFA. Joe Daly, good morning.
Good morning, Will.
Busy plate in front of you. So CAP and major reforms and... tell us what's on the agenda at the moment.
I suppose there's always things happening with IFA. I suppose the two big issues at the minute are the budget lobby, and the cap is probably the big one, and we're trying to lobby politicians. And at the minute, where we're looking at it in cap, there is a cut of about 25% to the budget. That's been negotiated. We have our MAPs kind of negotiating there. That 25% represents about €100 billion over a 5-year period. And reflected in that, we'll come back to Offaly as a 9 million cut per annum for a 5-year period. And if you take a 9 million cut in County Offaly, that would reflect on about 100 jobs. There's a study done in UCD which reflects that every million in an economy creates about 11 jobs. So 9 million is roughly 100 jobs.
Which in this county would be felt in the sense that we celebrate the creation of 100 jobs. We had the loss of a lot of peat jobs, I think about 400. So it's a quarter of that. It is significant.
It is significant. And I suppose the jobs aren't maybe all in one factory. They're kind of spread throughout the whole area, the whole county, be it the whole way from Shannon Bridge to Edenderry. And within that you have farmers, you have agribusinesses, you have farm stores, you have farm machinery companies. So there's a lot of people, say, dependent and working out of the industry, and the income is important for paying bills. And I suppose the other thing, we're after a wet morning here or a wet night last night, and we had about 10 mils of rain here locally, and it's important that, say, at times agriculture is cyclical, incomes go up and down, so that's a kind of a steady constant, that cap, that payment that farmers get.
Well, we were talking only last week about fodder, and yes, a very good sustained period of rain would make a huge difference to farmers, but that's somewhat out of control at the moment.
Yeah, that's outside our control. And I suppose the other thing is we're moving further into the year, so days are getting shorter, nights are getting colder, nights are longer, so growth is probably not going to be as good. So we need to get support and that for farmers. And at the minute, I suppose, just to call out, Teagasc are actually doing a fodder budget clinic in Tullamore, Portlaoise, Kildare, in the area that they work. But there are
fodder... What is a fodder budget clinic?
It's essentially where farmers bring in the measurements of their silage pit or their number of bales, and Teagasc will work out what their requirement for fodder is based on their cattle numbers, and if there is a shortfall or a deficit, well, they can plan for that now rather than being at the month of January where you have a problem where you've run out of fodder. So it's better to plan, and you can put in some measures to alleviate the problem.
Yeah, the challenge, of course, unlike 6-7 years ago, is that other European countries have also had drought. So even if a farmer knows that he or she needs a certain amount of fodder, sourcing it becomes altogether more difficult.
Absolutely, no, 100% will. You have it in one. There's actually, say, farmers in France and contractors in France looking to source fodder here, and it's not actually here. So, and other times we would have got fodder in from the UK and Spain. So that's not available to us this year. We're totally dependent on what we have here. And I suppose, say, we're probably on the edge of say, the fodder crisis. As you go more south and east, it's worse. But there probably is going to be fodder on farms. But farmers are cautious at this time of the year. It's a long way to next St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, but as you've said, I mean, the market isn't just local or even national. Yeah. There's an international influence on demand and pricing and so on. Finally, then, bringing it back to Cloughan, communities like this will feel an outsized impact from whether it's a cut in the cap, whether it's an increase in the price of fodder, because unlike large towns, there isn't quite the same diversity of industry here.
Yeah.
How healthy is the local agricultural market?
Locally, we'd be quite healthy. We'd have a retail premises out the road. Grennans have a retail premises, and there's employment. It's a bit like talking to Martin or Ger. All those small businesses are very important. You go down to Balnahound, there's another one. There's more in Banagher. So there's lots of those little retail businesses, and they are very important for the rural area. They provide employment, say, for people who are farming, say, on a part-time basis. But it's important. I suppose there's lots of farming happening in the area, lots of people with jobs maybe in Tullamore or further afield, and the farm in their evenings, and that's very important for the rural economy. And I suppose the Bordemona, as you mentioned, the Bordemona and ESB loss are huge in the area, but it's to try cover those over with new employment if we can.
Joe, as I said, a very full plate in front of you, so thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Will.
Joe Daly is the chairman of Offaly IFA, which brings the programme to a close. My thanks to Radek and to Connor for engineering. Sinead Hubble produced. Thank you for listening. Let's chat tomorrow morning from 9. Bye-bye.